It's a great pleasure to welcome Craig Roberts, who is the Managing Director of Mazda Southern Africa. We're going to be talking about the Mazda CX-60 launch. But firstly, welcome to you, Craig. It's great to have you on the show for the first time. I must tell you, I've had a Mazda in the past, and I've been talking to a few Mazda owners. In fact, I was talking to a good friend of mine, Lip, and I was telling him that I'm going to be speaking to you, and he says, no, he's had a Mazda. He loves his Mazda. He's had it for over 200,000 kilometers. He hasn't even opened the engine. The previous one he drove for over 200,000 kilometers. His father's had a Mazda as well. And I was just thinking about it, and I was saying it's quite extraordinary brand loyalty and value that you have from customers. I mean, this is a family that's had Mazda for more than 5 decades. They love the brand and they continue buying the brand. And you certainly, I'm sure, across your role, you come across many such loyal customers who've been driving Mazda their whole lives.
Absolutely, Aki. I think it's one of the traits that we find in the Mazda brand. And you speak to loyalty, and I think that loyalty is based on one of the brand pillars, and that's legendary reliability and longevity that stems from, the incredible levels and engineering prowess, that Mazda has brought to market in sort of what is a 100-year history. And I think, those types of stories, we do hear them whilst they're anecdotal, but it's just incredible for me from a personal perspective as to how many people I engage with that, do still have really, and let's call them old Mazdas, and how many people actually started their driving careers in a Mazda, in South Africa. We have so many stories, and when I engage with people, it's almost ridiculous that so many of them had as their first new car purchase was a Mazda. I myself, the first ever new car that I purchased was ironically enough a Mazda. And talking to that legend reliability, I think I did about 420,000 Ks in the car until I could afford another car. That brand loyalty has been extraordinary over sort of the 50 plus years that the Mazda brand has been in South Africa.
That's amazing to hear, Craig. And of course, I remember, growing up, so many friends had the 323 with the legendary 323. But, there's been incredible evolution that's happened since then, obviously. And the cars that you guys are producing today are slick, they're chic, they look fantastic, they drive fantastic. And we're going to be talking about the CX-60. This will absolutely be the ultimate Mazda vehicle available in South Africa. So talk to us about the CX-60 and what makes this car in the Mazda range so very special, Craig.
Yeah, absolutely, Aki. I think this car is probably the pinnacle of where the brand has evolved into a position of wanting to become less so of a volume selling brand, but more of let's call it an alternate to premium. I know that that's a very broad space, but wanting to bring to market products that can showcase, as I mentioned, the legendary engineering, but also one of the other brand pillars, which is, the joy of driving. Basically, taking into the large SUV space a vehicle that is still going to embody the spirit of the legendary Mazda MX-5, which was a driver's car, and trying to, take that SUV, which sometimes can be a bit bland in terms of its driving experience, where you have a number of, let's even refer to, autonomous driving elements, and to try and combine that. But obviously CX-60 as a larger SUV is going to be our new brand flagship in South Africa. And it basically will also include all of the latest technology, both in sort of drivetrain and also then in basically what we refer to, as connectivity, all those sorts of things, which you're very familiar with. So we're really excited for the launch of CX-60. It's a car we've been waiting for quite some time. In fact, since the launch of our 7th generation products, of which this is the latest in 2019, I think everybody has been waiting for this larger SUV strategy to unfold and to be brought to market for us. So it does give us an opportunity to showcase potentially another side of Mazda and to, take even further some of those other brand pillars and product attributes that you mentioned, such as the design, which is a very important factor for us as a Japanese brand, embodying Japanese craftsmanship design.
Wow, that sounds super exciting. I mean, all the bells and whistles and more. When you look at the target market of the CX-60 in South Africa, who would that be? You mentioned premium, and it certainly sounds like premium and plus. So who is your target market in South Africa?
I think that that term alternative premium defines that target market in a market and very much relevant to the current market. People, our customers are looking for one, a driving experience. They're looking for, as you said, high equipment levels. And then also, I think there's also got to be this value for money element to the product that you bring to market. So I think in taking all of those elements and then, saying, well, the target audience, I think that the target audience is probably, more directed at family orientated people who basically enjoy, life in general, not necessarily the outdoors. I think versatility of the vehicle is also a key attribute. And it basically talks to, I think, a persona that is very much South African, that likes to have a certain level of freedom of movement, being able to experience, whatever they want to experience. They're the normal, I suppose, definitions of who the target audience and the target customer would be in terms of things like household income, etc. But what we do have with the vehicle, we believe, is a very well-positioned vehicle in relation to where we currently have premium brands with SUV offerings of the same size, the same dimensions, the same capacities, etc. That's that alternative premium space, and brings to market a really fantastic value proposition in a car that's beautifully designed, excellent craftsmanship, and just an elevated and next level of materials and quality for a brand such as Mazda.
Let's talk about that luxury SUV market. I mean, let's be honest, is that there are numerous options in South Africa. There's a lot of the vehicles available in this SUV market. What sets the CX-60 apart in particular, and why should South Africans choose this particular car? I mean, for me, what stands out, and I'll be honest with you, I think the styling is quite unique. As soon as I see the vehicle, it says Mazda to me, and it's got this unique, beautiful styling, whereas a lot of the other SUVs are very similar styling. And for me, the styling of this vehicle really stands out. And I love the front part of the vehicle, which is quite unique in itself. So that, for me, as a customer, is what I see. Why should South Africans choose the CX-60 in particular?
Okay, I think you hop on and make note of probably the biggest element, and that is in the design. What we are seeing in terms of larger SUVs and even medium-sized SUVs is, and don't want to be overcritical of competitor brands or colleague brands out there, but I think there's a blandness that's being brought to the market in terms of the fact that everybody is starting to look the same, as you say. And I think, with CX-60, we have the next embodiment of what we refer to as CODA, soul of motion design. And it does certainly, bring a certain level of distinctness to the actual design of the vehicle. There's no way, especially from a front and a side view, of mistaking this vehicle for any other vehicle. This is a Mazda, and it's a Mazda CX-60. And I think, from the perspective of, where we've come and where we've arrived with CX-60 in terms of various elements of the vehicle, one particular element has been in the choice of materials used, the quality of those materials, but then also the source of those materials. I think just in terms of the interior finishes, the ergonomics of the interior, what we refer to as human-machine interface, particular attention has been paid to those elements, making the car an absolute joy to drive and a very easy car to drive. Many instances we see products brought to market where, you almost have to complete an undergraduate degree to become familiar with all the elements and tech in these types of vehicles, not again being overly critical, but that's one of the elements that I think this CX-60 really does embody. It's a comfortable car to drive. It's an easy car to understand and to come to terms with great design. And we've got a really, I believe, good, again, referring to this reliability element, powertrain or engine in the vehicle, a new transmission, which basically takes, this 2.5 liter, normally aspirated, which is something that people might shy away from, to a next level, in terms of, I suppose, the coupling of powertrain to transmission, and then obviously to the rest of the design of the vehicle. we're really excited about CX-60. We've tried to not overcomplicate things. We've only brought two variants to date. Obviously, the dynamic, which is the entry, and then obviously the individual, which is the upspec all-wheel drive version. And we're hoping to include by the middle of next year at the latest, our first plug-in hybrid electric vehicle offering in CX-60. And then once we have moved up the queue in terms of availability, the 3.3 diesel, which everybody is waiting for across the globe in the CX-60s at the moment.
Gee, that's pretty exciting. You mentioned you're going to be launching those two vehicles, the CX-60, the two different models, the dynamic and the all-wheel drive individual. What are the differences between these two vehicles that you're launching at the start, Craig?
We've always had a product strategy in terms of the fact that we want to bring to market vehicles that are as highly equipped at standard level as possible. We don't have a number of bolt-on options or packages, etc. So again, with basically dynamic, we have a vehicle that is really, really well equipped. But in terms of major differences between the dynamic and the individual, obviously the individual is an all-wheel drive vehicle. It basically also has a number of additional, let's call it, features and an equipment in terms of, for example, sakes, it has a 360 see-through view, which allows you to see obstacles that were picked up on a number of cameras around the vehicle when reversing, when parking, etc., that you wouldn't normally see with a normal reverse park camera. It also has MRCC, which basically is adaptive cruise control, which has been also improved from previous versions and other versions that are out in the marketplace. But I think, one of the biggest features that stands out for me and is a first for the South African market is basically what we refer to as driver personalization system. And that driver personalization system is effectively a facial recognition system, which enables pre-settings for up to 6 drivers, obviously in the driver's seat, for things like seat position, steering wheel position, positioning of the heads-up display, entertainment options in terms of radio stations selected, different music apps, and just, even sets mirrors, both rear view and side mirrors. So the individual is somewhat higher spec than the dynamic, but obviously, we're really proud of the level of equipment we've been able to include into the dynamic.
That is really cool. This is like the one frustration is whenever somebody else comes in the car, like everything needs to be adjusted in the radio, and they never leave it like you had it before. So when you come back to use your car, you're going to set everything again. I love that feature. That's a fantastic feature, and it's all facial recognition. It knows who's been in the car, and that's absolutely amazing. Look, it's a tough market out there, Craig, at the moment. When you look at the economy, and I mean, it's not just South Africa. I think this is globally, but I am seeing some light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm wondering what your sales expectations are for the Mazda CX-60 in South Africa. How popular do you expect this car to be?
We were expecting to get some good traction from this vehicle. Obviously, as you mentioned, the market, and specifically as you move into, let's call it, the upper echelons of price positioning, is not an easy place. It's an extremely competitive, marketplace and landscape at the moment. From a sales volume aspirations, we're looking to sell as every single vehicle we are able to get into South Africa at the moment, and that's looking to do volumes of between 50 and 60 units a month for the first 6 months. And then obviously, as I mentioned earlier, we are looking to introduce 2 new powertrains, one being a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, and then the 3.3 DE turbo. Once we are able to extend the variants to 4, with those 2 additional powertrains, we'd be looking to get closer to the 100 vehicles a month, or around about 1,200 vehicles a year. So not into the volume spaces that some other brands have, let's say, competing products at the same price level, but certainly heading towards trying to, have about 1,200 of these CX-60s on the road each year.
Yeah. And when are they available immediately, Craig? What's the rollout, and is there a waiting list? I imagine there must be.
At the moment, we do have a short waiting list on the individual. The individual seems to have been the popular choice in the initial early adopters and the initial inquiries, etc., that we have had. And the vehicle went into the retail space. We call it open doors in our world on the 29th of May. And it's gained good traction. We've had good inquiry levels. The reviews on the vehicle have been fantastic thus far, really positive. So the vehicle is available at dealers. It can be test driven. All of our dealers have demonstrator models, etc., and the interest has been good thus far. In, as what you
that's
say,
amazing.
very, very competitive space.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? The thing is, you need to get into the vehicle and take it for a test drive. I think you'll be blown away and surprised by the incredible features in the vehicle. Before I let you go, is there one favorite feature or two favorite features that you have driving the CX-60, Craig?
To be honest, Aki, I haven't managed to get my hands on a company car as a CX-60. In fact, it arrived yesterday, so it's busy being prepared. So I'll get to drive that. Obviously, I've driven the individual in terms of the cars that we've had. If I have to select a favorite feature, I mean, the driver personalization feature for me is just
Yeah.
absolutely next level. But, from an overall perspective, and maybe I'm going to be boring here, it's just a combination of a number of really usable pieces of equipment in the vehicle that have been improved from our current offering in CX-5 and also what's out there. But yeah, driver personalization for me is a great one. When I get into, well, if someone else has driven my current vehicle and I can't actually get into the car, which
Yeah.
is sometimes frustrating. But,
Yeah.
and the second element of the CX-60 is just the quality of the finishes. You think, can we get better? Can we improve, in these areas? And we have. I think our teams have excelled themselves here with this vehicle. So, that is an overriding favorite feature for me, is just that next level of finish and quality in the vehicle. But yeah, favorite feature, driver personalization system is definitely up there for me.
Absolutely awesome. Craig Roberts, Managing Director of Mazda Southern Africa. It's been fantastic chatting to you. What an exciting vehicle. And the roadmap with the diesel that you said is coming and the plug-in hybrid. There's some fantastic vehicles that are coming very soon to Mazda Southern Africa. But this CX-60 sounds like a magnificent vehicle. Craig, thank you for joining us.
Only a pleasure, Aki.